Joining us from Dallas, the Heritage Foundation, Steve Moore. Steve, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi. Great to be with you.
I want to start with you and talk about the minimum wage because, I mean, we have 28 million Americans now make minimum wage, and as we know, in a lot of places, people working full-time, making minimum wage, still not able to make ends meet. So why not raise the minimum wage?
Well, you're right. This has been a pretty bad economy for the last 5 or 6 years, no question about it. And, we saw this in the latest jobs report that wages aren't just rising. And I would say just one general observation. I think all this talk about the minimum wage, I think it's a little off topic. I mean, only about 4 or 5% of workers in the American economy make the minimum wage. Fortunately, most American workers make a lot more than minimum wage. The average wage in America today is about $23 an hour. I think the real problem with America right now is that not the minimum wage isn't rising, but the median wage hasn't risen, and we're not creating the kind of good-paying jobs that we need to so that families can survive. I would say this, that I think there are real risks when you have very high unemployment as we do today, and the real unemployment rate today, notwithstanding the report yesterday, is about 10%, not 6.3%. And I just don't think now is a very good time because I think you will price some of these people out of the jobs market. One last thing, most of these jobs are starter jobs. Within 6 months, 2/3 of the people on minimum wage get an increase in their salary.
That's actually not true, and I want to clarify. I actually did not say that it was a bad economy.
What wasn't true?
I actually said that we've seen an increase in job creation. What is it, 50 months now of private sector job growth. We've seen now the unemployment rate go down to 6.3%. So, I mean, that would me that we're moving in the right direction, not as fast as we should. And so why not then help give people a lift?
Well, I think you'd have a hard time telling the American people that this is a good jobs market out there because it's a pretty lousy one. I mean, I think we have seen jobs growth, but it's been. We had a good report yesterday, no question about it. But the problem is that so many Americans are dropping out of the workforce that if you look at the real unemployment rate, including people who dropped out and can't find a full-time job, the unemployment rate's closer to 10%. So it's a tough job market out there. And we just haven't seen wage growth for the last 5 or 6 years. I would say this, at least if we're going to raise the minimum wage, and who knows where this is going. But I think everyone should agree that we should have a starter wage or like a teen wage so that we're not pricing young people out of the job market. I always tell the student, I have 2 teenagers. I love them to death. I love my kids more than anything in the world. Nobody's going to pay these kids $10 an hour. They need the first job so they can get the second and third job. You're going to price a lot of young people out of the job market with a 10 or 12. In Seattle, believe it or not, they want to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
Yes, they do, and I absolutely believe it. And I think the mayor there did a fine job of actually sitting down with businesses to make it work for the community. Ryan, to this point that Steve is making, I mean, when we talk about, yes, there has not been wage growth, that's part of the problem, right? What we're seeing is record profits being held to the top, not making its way, as they like to say, trickling down to the workers at the bottom.
Right. I mean, Stephen has spent his career, trying to destroy unions, which, are what drove up wages throughout the 20th century, and cutting taxes so that the wealth flies to, to the top 1% and the top 0.1%. And Stephen wants to have it both ways here. He wants to say, look, we really shouldn't do this because it would be really damaging because it would cost a lot of jobs. And on the other hand, nobody actually makes the minimum wage. Both of those things can't be true.
Right.
And this 2% or whatever he says actually make the minimum wage. A huge number make a nickel or a dime and several times over that make less than 10/10. So this would be a dramatic difference to people. So, the fact that
we're talking about
you're citing what you like about the CBO study, and then you're saying you can't say, oh, they're going to get all these people out of poverty according to the CBO, and not look at the other side of the story, which CBO says, which almost all economists say, which there will be job loss. We don't know exactly what it's going to be, and the people who are going to lose their jobs, let's be very clear about this, are the people who are the least skilled, the people who are the least educated, the people at the bottom. I'm not sure how that solves the problem of income inequality.
Quickly, Ryan.
So, Stephen, it's false to say that the CBO said it would cost 500,000 to $1 million jobs. That is not what it said. It said in the future they estimated 500,000 to $1 million jobs would not be created in the future. Nobody would lose their job. Not a single person. Meanwhile, millions more people would get hundreds more dollars a week in their paycheck. So what would you say to those
And that actually puts more money into the economy, and that has more money in people's pockets, and that's more money into the economy. We have to leave it there, but I have to tell you that on some level I think this is kind of a silly argument because historically